الله الرحمن الرحيم
الذين يقولون ربنا إننا آمنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وقنا عذاب النار الصابرين والصادقين والقانتين والمنفقين والمستغفرين بالأسحار شهد الله أنه لا إله إلا هو والملائكة وأولو العلم قائما بالقسط لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم.
The land of Iraq is a land which is in the headlines on a daily basis, because it is a land where Muslim blood flows like the Tigris and the Euphrates River. It is a land where blood is cheaper than oil, and the reality is that oil can be substituted for blood. But this is not the first time that Iraq has seen a massacre, for Iraq has a history of massacres. In 1258, when the Mongols took over Iraq under Hilugu, who was the grandson of Genghis Khan, the entire population of Baghdad at that time was 1.6 million. 1.6 million. And later historians write that half of the population of Baghdad was massacred. But this wasn't the first time that Iraq had seen a massacre. For centuries before this, Iraq saw another massacre. And in this massacre, the rivers didn't turn red with the believers' blood, but the blood which ran through their veins was the holiest of blood. For it was the same blood which flowed through the veins of the Prophet ﷺ. And this was the massacre of the blessed family of the Prophet ﷺ. This was the murder of that person who was the most beloved person to the Prophet ﷺ, walking on the face of this earth. It was his grandson Hussain radiallahu anhu. For who other than Hussain had the honor of the Prophet ﷺ putting him upon his shoulders? Upon occasion, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu saw Hassan and Hussain upon the shoulders of the Prophet ﷺ, and Umar radiallahu anhu said, "Oh, what a beautiful ride you have." And the Prophet ﷺ said, "No, Umar, what beautiful riders I have upon my shoulders." Upon occasion, the Prophet ﷺ was giving the Jummah khutbah, and Hassan and Hussain radiallahu anhum entered the masjid, and the Prophet ﷺ descended from the pulpit. He picked Hassan and Hussain up, and then he ascended the pulpit again, and he said, "Indeed Allah speaks the truth when he says, إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ," that your wealth and your progenies are a fitna for you. Who else other than Hussain had the honor of the Prophet ﷺ chasing him in the streets of Medina? Upon occasion, the Prophet ﷺ was walking through the streets of Medina, and he saw Hussain radiallahu anhu playing with a group of children, and he began to run after him, and Hussain would run this way, and the Prophet ﷺ would run after him. Hussain would run out that way, and Rahmatul Alameen sallallahu alayhi wasallam would run after him, until finally he caught him, he embraced him, and he kissed him. Who else other than Hussain had the honor of the Prophet ﷺ lifting his garment and kissing him upon his navel? Who else other than Hussain radiallahu anhu had the honor of the Prophet ﷺ saying, "Hussain is from me and I am from Hussain"? Who else other than Hassan and Hussain had the honor of the Prophet ﷺ saying that your houses will be opposite my house in Jannah? Who else other than Hassan and Hussain had the honor of the Prophet ﷺ saying that on the day of judgment, in the hereafter, Sayyid al-Shababi Ahlul Jannah, that you will be the leaders of all the youth in Jannah? All the youth in Jannah. And the amazing thing is that a group of people who regarded themselves as Muslims, after seeing how much love the Prophet ﷺ had for Hassan and Hussain, killed Hassan and Hussain. These people will come on the day of judgment, and they will want the Prophet ﷺ to give him water on the well of Kawthar, but they deprived the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ for water for 3 days. They will come and they will want the Prophet ﷺ to intercede on their behalf, but they mercilessly killed that person who was the most beloved person walking on the face of this earth to the Prophet ﷺ. And when the eminent Sahaba radiallahu anhu found out that Hussain was going, they tried to convince him not to go. The likes of Abdullah ibn Zubair. When Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu found out, he said, "Hussain, where are you going?" He said, Hussain, don't you know what these people did to your father? Don't you know what the people of Iraq did to your brother? So where are you going? And Hussain radiallahu anhu insisted that he wanted to go. And then Abdullah ibn Abbas said, I swear by Allah, Hussain, if I had the power, I would tie a rope upon your neck and I would keep you in Mecca. When Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu found out, he traveled for 3 days to catch up with Hussain radiallahu anhu. And he said, Hussain, where are you going? And he said, look at the letters that they've sent me. They want to give bay'ah to me. And Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu was one of the leading scholars and he had a deep insight in the Quran and the Hadith. And he said, Hussain, this can never happen because the Prophet ﷺ said that he is from you and you are from him. And the Prophet ﷺ was given an option of the dunya and the akhirah. And he chose the akhirah. So you can never attain the dunya. And Hussain radiallahu anhu insisted upon going. And then Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, Hussain, show me that place where the Prophet ﷺ used to kiss you. And Hussain radiallahu anhu, he lifted his garment and Abdullah ibn Umar kissed him on that very spot where the Prophet ﷺ used to kiss him. And then Hussain radiallahu anhu advanced and he met a man called Farazdak who was a very famous poet. And he asked him, what is the situation in Kufa? And he said, the situation in Kufa is that the hearts of the people are with you, but their swords are with Bani Umayyah. And then Hussain radiallahu anhu went further on and he began to say, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And they said, Hussain, what's wrong? He said, I have seen an angel in the form of a rider and he has told me that the army is coming and death awaits you. And they said, Hussain, what did you say? What do you see? Upon the second time he said, I have seen the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when he went further on, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad had sent an army under Hur ibn Yazid of 1,000 men. And when Hur ibn Yazid confronted Hussain radiallahu anhu and he said, Hussain, don't make Allah test me through the family of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And Hussain radiallahu anhu carried on with his caravan and Hur ibn Yazid began to follow him with his army. He began to follow him with his army. And then when he began to follow him, Hussain radiallahu anhu said, Hur, may your mother lose you. Get lost. May your mother lose you. And Hur ibn Yazid said, oh Hussain, I swear by Allah, if anybody other than you had said this to me, I would have taken revenge from him and his mother. But what can I say? Your mother is the leader of all the women of this dunya and all the women of the akhirah. What can I say to you? And he saw a dream. And the only thing which woke him up was that his sister Zainab radiallahu anha, she came out running and screaming because the enemies were advancing. And Hussain radiallahu anhu told his brother that tell him to give us one more day. That's all we want, to think over things. And Abbas radiallahu anhu, he spoke to them and they gave him one more day. And upon that night, Hussain radiallahu anhu, he gathered all his men and he said, oh, people know that the only man they want is me, so why don't you all go back? Why don't you all go back and leave me? And they said, Hussain, la baka lana ba'dak. They said, Hussain, there is no life for us after you. And then he turned to the family of Muslim ibn Aqil and he said, oh Muslim, your family has given the sacrifice because Muslim has been martyred. Why don't you go back? And they said, oh Hussain, what will the people say? That you left your master, that you left your sheikh, that you left your cousin because you wanted to live in this dunya? They said, we swear by Allah, this can never happen. For we will die with you. We will give our lives, we will give our families, and we will give our wealth. And if it means dying with you, we will die with you. And then Hussain radiallahu anhu fought. He fought bravely, but for 3 days, he hadn't tasted a sip of water. And he fought as brave as he could. But for 3 days he hadn't tasted a sip of water until finally he retreated and he went into his camp and he had a young child, a young son called Abdullah. And he knew his time was up. And he took his son in his arms and he began to kiss him. And he began to embrace him. And one of the Kufan, they shot an arrow. And the arrow hit Abdullah in the neck. And Hussain radiallahu anhu, he put Abdullah to the floor and he lifted his hands to the sky and he said, Allahumma sabbirna ala al-qadha, Allahumma sabbirna ala al-qadha, Allahumma sabbirna ala al-qadha. So Allah, give us sabr upon your decree. Oh Allah, give us sabr upon your decree.